right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The State of the Nation conversation continues right now. We're about to get into another topic, which is the finance bill and the protest. And speaking of the finance bill, there's some news just coming into our newsroom right now that the National Treasury has told Parliament that the government amendments on the finance bill will occasion up to 200 billion shillings gap in the projected revenue. Now, in a letter to the clerk of the National Assembly, the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u has proposed budget cuts across the three arms of government. The Department of Energy will take the biggest cut with 21.7 billion shilling slash in its budget that will affect the last mile connectivity in constituencies. According to CS Ndung'u, the other biggest loser will be the confirmation of JSS teachers, with the Teacher Service Commission set to lose 18.9 billion shillings. The State Department of Higher Education will be hit with 8.3 billion shillings that will, among other things, reduce allocations to Higher Education's Loans Board. According to the Treasury, the NGCDF and the State Department for Roads will both suffer a 15 billion shilling slash from ongoing road projects. The fertilizer subsidy program and the county equitable share will also suffer a 5 billion shilling reduction. Treasury says it will, by tomorrow, outline other measures expected to realize a 21.6 billion shillings reduction. Atandi, NGCDF will suffer cut. This is what the Treasury CS says based on the concessions that have been made. What is your reaction?
I think let's not start from NGCDF. Let's see what are the cuts in State House. How much cuts are we having for State House, for the office of the First Lady, the Second Lady?
He says State House 500 million.
Office of the Second Lady, office of the First Lady. You know, those busybody offices. So I think this is bullshit and scarecrow.
What's your language, Mheshimiwa?
This is scarecrow by Treasury CS, that you can threaten MPs that you are going to lose NCDF so that we pass the finance bill. I think that won't happen. The truth of the matter is that if we are going to look at wastages in government and unnecessary expenditures, then Treasury CS knows where those expenditures exist. Because for Kenyans, our children must go to school and they must sit in proper classrooms, which do not exist. So we are not going to tolerate those scarecrows, so that we do not pass. We pass the finance bill. We will not pass the finance bill. The truth is, as I've told you, if you go to offices like Treasury, just look at the Treasury budget allocations. What do they do? What development does Treasury do? So there's still so much that can be cut off. But again, from where I sit, I have told Treasury CS that please just bring the budget for this financial year. Don't increase it. Yeah. If the NGCDF allocation for this financial year was about 55 billion, let us go with that, so that you don't increase tax, you don't increase it. We are ready to work with whatever is there.
Okay.
But
in all fairness, Mheshimiwa, just to be clear, on that list, there are more than 45 of them. In fact, now that you mention National Treasury, I see it on item number 10 here. They will lose 12.7 billion shillings. State House,
they should lose more. Billion shillings. They should lose even 50 billion.
State House is 9.
Treasury should lose even 5 billion. They should lose even 50 billion.
So you're accepting the budget cuts, though?
Yes.
So in a nutshell, there are going to be budget cuts across all the three arms of government.
You see, what they're saying, they don't mean it. They are simply scaring MPs. And that's why they're highlighting NGCDF as the biggest casualty. Because they want to scare MPs so that, when you go back to Parliament, you say, okay, we are going to lose NGCDF, so let us pass the finance bill. But the truth of the matter is that if Treasury wanted to do proper budget cuts, they will not affect development, because NGCDF is development. They should go and cut those travels. Okay. Yesterday I said in Parliament that government executive members are like, they are like commercial sex workers. That's what I said. Because they're just traveling, they just wherever they are invited. Even if they're invited to go to wherever where they are going to make nonsensical trips, they go. So there's so much that needs to be cut on the recurrent expenditure from the executive. And we are not going to tolerate cuts that are affecting development, because development is what is important for the people of Kenya.
Okay. Elachi.
Maybe we need to hold it on what Dante's travel, because I'm aware we're also traveling and we need to know
I'll give you a chance.
So that this word commercial sex worker that is want to brand the others, how to win.
I'll give you a chance to
That was a
respond.
very unfortunate remark.
No.
Because yes, as a panel, I think also needs to
Let's hear what Elachi has to say based on the budget cuts. And like I mentioned, there are more than 45 of them, so it's cutting across. The State House's office of the president.
You see,
Yes.
if we are serious as a country and we are saying
Why should
we have to see things go in line,
Yeah.
then all of us, all sectors must give in, because we accepted that we want to see a budget that is within our means. And so when Kenyans are feeling the heat that we are giving them, and they are saying there are some things we are not doing right, we agree with them. But then at the same time, we should sit down and ask ourselves, what is it that we have put in that we know was not there? It can go, because it was not there. But you can't cut what was there and what has been taking precedence. You can't. So anything we added that was not even there,
Yeah.
whether it's electricity, whether it's what, let it go.
Okay.
But that was there for making roads, let it remain. For making the schools, let it remain. And ensure also, you see, we are talking about this, but then in all this, we have come in, I saw in health, we left 1 or 2 at the national level, billion shillings. I asked myself, why at the national level when 98% of this is a devolved function? So we have to ask ourselves. And we will have to go down.
Yeah.
What we added also for county governments has to go. They didn't have it, they should not have it. Let's go back now to and that's why we are saying, then we can also use the finance bill of 2023, 2024.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
because
right.
that is where we are going back.
All right.
So it can work. They're now bringing all these strains we have brought for Kenyans.
Okay.
Yes. If that is what the CS is telling us,
Yes.
that Kenyans, let's cut.
Yeah.
We will use the same finance bill we used last time and see the measures we had put in.
Yeah.
There are 1,000 people we put in KRA. How I wish they would have told us what they have been doing in the 1 year and what we have gained in that.
So you support the cut across?
I support the cut across.
Including NGCP?
Including, and then remove this finance bill, give us 2023, 2024, we push it to 2024, 2025.
Keep letting. And in all fairness, like I mentioned, there are more than 45 departments, all of them that are going to take cuts. I've just mentioned a few of them. Do you support this?
Thank you. In cognizance with the campaign that has been running with Quote and God GNC, hashtag reject the bill, is going back to 2023, 2024. So I think, first of all, that should come out very clear. And what Treasury are already indicating in their communique to the National Assembly is that we are cognizant of the current debate, of course, aware also of the outcome of the committee report on finance and national planning, which subjected the proposals in the bill to rigorous public participation. And in the process, the public and the stakeholders were able to iron out critical issues that is going to interfere with the operations and the expected economic growth. And in quest to the provisions of Article 221, even 211, provisions of PFM Act Section 39, allowing up to Section 40, it mandates that Parliament should ensure that revenues matches the fiscal framework. As we are discussing now on the concessions, on the earlier proposals in the bill, it automatically has to impact on the revenues, and therefore the proposal by the CS National Treasury should be welcome in both hands, because we must live within our means. We must have a balanced budget. As we are saying right now, as we strive to achieve what we call fiscal consolidation, it's not only about revenues or vertical approach. Now we need to address the horizontal approach, and not waging out what Adante said on how also we need to manage some priority expenses. If you look at the current budget, the recurrent expenditure. We need to evaluate and be able to rate what is this critical that is required for a particular service to be given to Kenyans. If there is anything that can be suspended for now, we agree, even including CS Treasury during tabling of the budget outlets in the floor of the House, even recommended that if it's possible, we need now to freeze hiring for 1 year. Okay. Because Kenyans we have to be real to ourselves. Okay. The pain of the debt, if you look at the CFS allocation of 1.3 trillion, say 1.2 that is meant to finance the interest on borrowings, both domestic and foreign loans. It is a pain that is within us a ton, and the law is saying it has to be fast charge. Okay. So as we begin now to get to a level play field that we are beginning to engage with Kenyans, and as we speak on living within our means, let's start with this. I know Kenyans had a lot of expectation in this particular financial year budget, say that we had promised them that, especially constituencies where we come from, the rural, that are still yearning for connectivity. We had been promised 50 million per constituency, which is around 14 billion. Now Treasury is recommending, look at this. I know this already, we were excited, but now can we manage our excitement? Okay. Look at absorption of JSS teachers. The other day they were on the streets and saying, look at this, we have a lot of work to do. Now we need to look at which other areas that are not critical. Okay. And it's not only about the executive. I see Atandi's focusing, pointing at the executive. Let us also look at where we are in the Parliamentary Service Commission. We are also an expenditure unit. Let us look at judiciary. It is also an expenditure unit.
All of them are listed.
If it's a question of traveling, if there's a people who are traveling much, a Parliamentary Service Commission, where Atandi is. And when we speak of corruption on all this, I would still need to ask my colleagues, especially on the other side of the divide, that they give more weight on oversight. Can Parliament do their work to oversight this expenditure? What are they discussing and administering on auditor's report? Okay. Where, for now, 2 years, we need to see critical areas that are, an auditor does a lot of work to pinpoint areas where expenditure is not a priority or is in question, so that we're able to also assist and ensure we establish proper public finance governance that will see minimizing of wastages, avoiding of corruption, and at the end of the day, we strive to have a balanced budget that is so meaningful.
Yeah. And I see here Parliament, they're saying is going to lose about 3.1 billion, judiciary 2 billion, there's the National Gender and Commission 21 million, Office of the Control of Budget 37 million. Owen, if this was possible from the onset, then why put Kenyans through the drama of trying to push it through? If this is possible, that you can cut it down to this level. So why was it there in the first place?
I want to say this from the outset, Trevor, that if our founding fathers had thought the way we are thinking today, this country would have been 10 years behind, you know. But our founding fathers were resilient. They faced challenges that came in, you know, and grew this economy such that we are at the space that we are because there are certain people that sacrificed for us to be here. Beatrice Alachi and I probably went to university when you didn't pay anything. There were people who paid for us. Money was available from certain people who paid taxes for us to enjoy the education that we enjoyed at that particular time. The roads that are built in this country, in Nairobi, I was in Kisumu the other day in that region, and I saw roads. Somebody paid taxes to build those roads. The Nairobi that we are very proud of.
Are you saying you're not paying taxes today?
No, wait. The Nairobi that we are very proud of and is what it is today. Somebody paid taxes for us to be where we are. Kenya is respected in the world in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the country that we are very proud of, in terms of our GDP, in terms of our growth, because somebody paid taxes. And therefore we go to where we are. Today we have a generation that is forgetting that they are what they are today, and they're proud Kenyans because someone else made a sacrifice to be where we are. Paying tax is a constitutional matter. It is something that as a nation, as a country, as a people, will have to pay because we agreed in 2010 to put that as a constitutional matter. And it enhances growth of a country. Today, when we move on the defeatist theory that I'm hearing here today, that it is okay, let's put the cuts. After all, we don't need those things. Today, if we make the cuts, 46,000 JSS teachers who are supposed to be promoted to take up P&P, an increase on salary, an increase on income to the household, moving them from a state where they are hopeless to give them an opportunity. We lose that because someone is saying, no, we don't want to do that. If the people who were there before us refuse to pay taxes, we will not have enjoyed the education that we enjoyed. So it is very defeatist, Trevor, to come to a national TV and say, throw your hands and say, okay, we have given up. It's okay. We can be where we must be.
But when you're cherry picking this thing,
I'm coming.
My question was,
yes,
if State House can do without 451 million, it can also do 500 million for State House, Office of the President, 451 million. That's close to 1 billion. If they could do without it, then why was it there in the first place?
I am coming to that, Trevor. I'm coming to that. And give me time to develop my point. What I'm saying is this, Trevor. Even you in your household, you don't want to be what you were last year. And that is what progress is about. How do we work hard as a country, move forward to the next level? We do not want to run a state house like the one that probably President Moi, President Kibaki ran. We move forward. Things must grow as a country. And the more money is available in the country, the more the country grows. The lesser money we have in the economy, the lesser the country and the economy grows. And these are simple things that we must understand. So today to say, let's go back to 2023-2024 finance bill. What are we saying in terms of growth of the economy called Kenya? Of this company, of this enterprise called Kenya. Yeah. What are we talking about? Even today, if you go to big companies, blue chip companies like Safaricom, like Barclays Bank, like those, they cannot have the same revenue measures that they had 3 years ago and think that they will make progress.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is this: by removing money at State House, by removing money at all those other places, we are stagnating the growth of this country. The hard decisions that we made in 2023, because 2023 was harder than this, because government was raiding pay slips, which were basic, was very basic.
Is that stagnating growth or living within our means?
No. Living within your means is accepting not to grow.
Like the Ministry of Defense here is going to lose 7.7 billion.
So what does that mean? It means there will be no more soldiers being recruited into the KDF. So what does that mean to the young man who has just finished school?
Owen is...
Okay? No, let me finish my point.
I'll give you a chance to respond.
If you're saying that we are having cuts in terms of military,
yeah.
Today, when General Ogola died in that accident, everybody said we need better planes. We need to have better equipment for KDF.
Yeah.
Today we are making cuts. What does that tell us?
That is actually aligned because it's security operations and modernization.
Yes.
That is where the biggest cuts will be.
Yes, so when we have that modernization, when are we going to still run on the old planes? Because we say we must have cuts. What will happen to those soldiers? Are we thinking about their safety? Are we thinking about how we'll manage our military? So these are questions, fundamental questions that we must say when we say, okay, it's all right, let's make those cuts.
Okay.
Today, Trevor, if we stop the project on last mile connectivity, there are people there in the village, you and I and these guys who are here, will say that is okay, because they do not know what it means like to live in darkness without electricity, and how when you put electricity in a village, how transformative that is in terms of growth of the economy of that area. But they'll say it is okay because they have never lived in a village, they have never lived with a Koroboi lamp.
Okay.
Allow me to make my point. Allow me to make my point.
Yeah, you're taking longer than all of them.
Yes, but I want to make my point. I want to make my point.
Yes.
Today, there are people who, because of fertilizer, and we see that today, 67% of the GDP is contributed through agriculture. And if you look at the measures that we took in 2023-2024 budget, we were able to finance the fertilizer subsidy. What happened when the fertilizer subsidy went in? We had bumper harvest. We had growth in that area.
Yeah.
Trevor, today, the Kenyan economy is the 27th fastest growing economy according to the Times. Okay? Now, when this happened because we made hard decisions in 2023, hard decisions that have paid off in terms of growth of the economy.
So do you support these cuts, yes or no?
So today, it is one of the least things that I can accept. But we have, looking at the sacrifice, looking at the concessions that were made, just like the president has, the concessions that are made in Parliament, so that we can accommodate and be inclusive as a country from the kind of things that we saw. Yes, we say, okay, let's make the cut. But what I would like these honorable members that I have on this table to also look at what is the flip side.
And this is the flip side.
What is the flip side?
Trevor. Yes. By the way, Honorable Tandi, you know, one of the things that are going to be cut is spending bills. 5 billion from the National Treasury. School feeding program, 1.8 billion.
Trevor, thank you very much. Trevor, my friend Owen is not an economist, so his understanding of these issues is questionable. But I just wanted to advise him that the growth of an economy is not measured by how many taxes we introduce or the number of taxes we continue to pile each and every year on Kenyans. That is not how to measure.
I want to know which university.
Let him finish. He was listening.
I would like to know which university.
The reason why taxes are
that is not.
Let him finish.
The reason why the ratio of tax
because that is that is
gentlemen. Let him finish.
That is
write it down. I'll give you a chance to respond.
Perfect exhibition of ignorance.
Listen to me.
Just write it down. I'll give you a chance.
You don't measure the growth of an economy by how many taxes you can pile on the citizens. Because last year we piled more taxes, this year again we are piling more taxes, and they are saying that that is how we are going to measure how our economy is growing. The growth of an economy is measured by many other factors. One of the factors that you can use to measure the growth of an economy is how wealthy your citizens become. Because if these regular taxes are taking wealth from your pockets of your citizens, and the wealth is given to the state to misuse, then I don't think you are doing anything better. Because in this scenario, we are having a situation where all Kenyans are not keeping any wealth because their money is being taken and given to the state. So we need to have an economy where we can create wealthy citizens. Right now, we don't have wealthy citizens. In fact, there is a saying that we are only taxing the rich. But it is the rich that is supposed to sustain the economy. You know, the rich are employers, the rich spend, and this economy, by the way, is largely backed by household expenditure. So you are grabbing resources from the households, they are not spending, so the economy cannot grow. Secondly, the other issue that I wanted to emphasize is that even when you look at these taxes, Trevor, we have asked Treasury to tell us the performance of these taxes. The taxes that we passed in the last finance bill, how are they performing? If we introduced a tax in the last finance bill, how much did we collect from that particular tax? They can never show you. The only thing they can show you is that we are proposing this tax and we hope it will collect 500 million, 500 billion.
Yeah.
But in the end, they will only tell you a deficit. They will tell you that we were projecting to raise this money, we didn't raise it. So the insinuation that if we do not pass the finance bill, then they are going to do budget cuts, that is a false story. Because first of all, how did those taxes perform? They did not perform, and the reason they are not performing is that the environment we are creating for businessmen is not very good. Yesterday I said that most companies are relocating from this country. Why are they relocating? They are relocating because the business environment in Kenya is no longer predictable and it is not certain. Even if you wanted to plan your businesses, you cannot plan because today we have VAT on financial services. Tomorrow it will not be there. But businesses need to be predictable. They need to know that in the next 2 to 3 years, this is environment obtaining in terms of taxation. Then they can even pump more resources. So we are not providing this environment. So in the end, even if we are projecting to collect taxes, we are actually using these taxes to kill our economy. So I want to advise these people that collecting more taxes is not pegged on introducing more taxes.
But the government has made concessions. Is it enough? They
Which
removed the
concessions?
VAT on bread, the proposal on eco-levy was removed, all that.
I want to give you an example.
And he is aware the report has been tabled in Parliament.
No.
He has not read.
So he has not read. So that's why he's doing it.
He's here to speak for
himself. You know, I'm in terms of finances and economics, I'm better than all of you. So you cannot say I've not read. I know those things.
Without reading. He knows without reading.
What I'm trying to say is that We were thinking that the finance act,
referring to the report,
the finance act
of the House
of 2023-2024 could still obtain in this financial year. We needed not to create more taxes. We needed just to see, because we have one of the problems we have is that only a few Kenyans are paying taxes.
Okay.
The government has been unable to bring as many Kenyans into the tax bracket.
Okay.
If they were only investing in that, then we will collect still more taxes with the current taxes we have, without introducing more taxes. I think this is a message that needs to go out.
Okay.
And lastly, Trevor,
yes,
a very important point is that you cannot force Kenyans to pay tax. This is something I always repeat.
Okay.
Just by introducing a tax, it's not sufficient enough for Kenyans to pay. You must be able to boost their morale to be able to pay taxes willingly.
Okay.
In 2003, when Kibaki became the president, Kenyans came out and paid taxes on their own. That is the environment which is not obtaining right now.
Okay.
What can we do as a country to ensure that Kenyans can willingly pay tax?
Okay. Elachi, you said you support these budget cuts, but the devil is always in the detail. When I look at it closely, you see now there's school feeding program that will be cut out of it. There's operations of defense, internal security, cuts across board. But there are concessions that was made by government when it comes to the Finance Bill 2024. Are they enough? And should it now pass as is?
You see, first of all, CS has not told us what has triggered him to do this, because we have not even brought in amendments. We are just following on what they as government had said they are removing.
Yeah.
So is CS now telling us the moment we are going to now amend and remove the things themselves have brought again on the floor of the House, that is what triggers him to cut his budget? Because he has not. Number two...
Because the truth is, Elachi, they had said that out of all the tax measures that they wanted to put, they were targeting 306 billion shillings. Now, after making the concessions, it means the 306 billion is not there, and this is where they have to cut.
So now you have brought, because after you yourself have agreed you have to remove the levy for the bread, so what CS is saying, this, what we have brought as a government to say we can remove, we have realized if we remove, we're going to have again to have to cut the same budget. That is why I said yesterday in Parliament, how I wish we would have sat in Parliament, look at it in a bipartisan and agree. Because now when CS brings it on air, the only thing I can tell him, I agree with him, because you're the ones who said, go and remove the levy. What Kenyans have said, you have said, yeah, you are removing. Yes, you have agreed with them. So you can't come again and tell members of Parliament that, you know what, this is how now it's going. We know very well, even as members of Parliament, the moment those concessions were done, we needed to have sat down and reappropriate properly so that it is within.
Yeah.
But if he has
and this
decided,
is what he's attempting to do now.
If he has decided now that is how the cuts will be, you can't come and then tell, when I'm saying the truth, the way he wants it, that indeed we are going to cut and we have accepted as Kenyans, because that's what they are saying. They are saying, start living within our means. They are saying, give us 1 year and let us try and see, within our means, are we able to start growing? Because even in your house, when you find yourself in crisis after COVID, what did you do? After COVID, many people, that's what they did. And so you can't tell me, you know, the problem is we are assuming when the time Kibaki was there, but we are forgetting, we keep on forgetting. COVID took 2 years of people away in their growth, in their businesses, in everything. Then now we came in with a very, very aggressive campaign that made Kenyans very, very difficult to even do their businesses. We finished this campaign, we have come. We have to tighten the belt, as the president say, fine. But this is what I'll tell also the CS. Why wouldn't it have just come that way, this finance bill? Why bring it, then we go into a country where we have gone, we are in the heat, it's at the top. And now the balloon is coming, just bubbling, okay. But it's bubbling in a way I'm wondering, is that the right way?
Okay.
Yeah, you don't do this.
Yes, yes, keep it. And you can see even if the county equitable share will be cut down by 5 billion.
By 5 billion.
Yes, but the question will be, and I want to tell all of us, later, we are projecting everything. If we could not collect, even now we are in a deficit, we must accept. Even this we are putting, even if we do even if you add bread, you give Kenyans all these taxes, we will not get it.
So we are simply living beyond our means.
Kabisa.
Okay.
First of all, to pick from what Mheshimiwa Elaji said, I think she is aware that the appropriation bill is still awaiting approval. And what CS has done, cognizant of the debate that is ongoing now, and the committee's report which has been tabled in Parliament has already recommended concession on most of the proposals, which Kenyans, through public participation, expressed their feelings that, please, there are some things that can await a little bit. And therefore, guided by the principles of the Article 221 and PFM Mark Section 39 and 40, a budget has to be balanced. The revenues has to be determined. And therefore, CS is providing his own opinion or his own way, recommending or advisory, that should the recommendations that were provided for in the finance bill and aware of what is happening, then there will be a detriment on the other side of the expenditure. And therefore, he is proposing that should the Parliament adopt any amendment that is going to affect downwards, that is going to vary the recommendation, then to sort out the mess, these are the areas that we definitely have to go. But on the other side, Trevor, Kenya is a going concern. That we must appreciate, we must accept that we are not doomed to fail just because challenges are facing us now. And I remember when Kibaki, well, I was still young, but when Kibaki came in, you remember the narrative about Ushuru Ujitegeme. You know, it was a new phenomenon. For quite some time after independence, we were living in a below 500 billion budget. I think it was around 200 or so, if I remember, during Moi's time. But Kibaki came in and said, we must develop to transform our economy. Look at the roads now we are enjoying. Iron roads around Kilele, Shua, the Nairobi opened up, Hapail opened up, because Kibaki came in and said, we are not going to develop our nation by only depending on borrowing, but let us accept. Since Kibaki left, Uhuru came in, economy of Kenya has not remained the same. But this is not a static economy, it is dynamic. So every given time we should be informed by the new frontiers, new emergencies, like now the digital economy, which was not there. It is taking a huge trading now. But you see, we cannot be ignorant of this one and begin to remain on a traditional tax base. So we must also ensure that we have new policies that is going to appreciate the digital dimension and ensure that we onboard many other trading activities so that we lessen dependence on the tax. And let me tell you this, if you look at the provisions of the Finance Bill 2023, a huge clauses are pro Kenyan taxpayers. Look at the employees. There are a lot of reliefs that this particular proposal is proposing to relieve an employee in terms of the disposable income after tax and after deductions. Look at proposals to encourage and trigger savings, increasing contribution to the defined benefit scheme by 10,000, increasing contributions to what we call post-retirement, medical contributions. All these are good for the purpose of encouraging the Kenyans that after their retirement, in the terminal end of their lives, they will live a quiet life and enjoy without regret. There are a lot of goodies that comes around in these particular proposals. And therefore, even as we discuss all these issues around here, what Treasury is just telling us is that, okay, we have a huge task ahead of us, like the issues of managing debt, servicing our debt. This is, the law is very clear. It forms a fast charge, even before we discuss paying over our salaries, before we discuss, remittance to devolution, before we discuss a question of development, fast charge comes to be debt. And it's a reality on our hand that whatever we are collecting now, 1.1 trillion, not even retiring the principal amount, goes to pay the interest. This is a reality. On the other side, devolution also has come in. I'm sure even as we are discussing this, maybe Senate also should be assisting us now and also do their work to ensure whatever it has been devolved by the law should be felt by wananchi, so that we stop this idea of looking at the national government and everything to the extent
for getting the devolved.
Yes. Look at the issues of OSR also. Maybe if we increase OSR, we will reduce on the DORA, Division of Revenue Act.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let me bring in Owen on this. Owen, we would do a disservice if we don't talk about this. Are you concerned, as legislators allied to government, that there seems to be a new wave of protests by Gen Zs? They are not led by any political party. They have no leader. They are simply aggrieved. In fact, right now, all they're saying is reject the finance bill, not amend.
Thank you, Trevor. I've had an opportunity to engage the Gen Z because they send me a lot of SMSs on WhatsApp. They are calling.
You're part of the team whose numbers were listed?
Yes, my number was listed.
Everyone.
And I asked them, okay, I would like to engage you so that I understand you are thinking about reject finance bill. What is it about? And some of them say basically nothing. When you start engaging them, they will throw an epithet on you and abuse you, and that's it, you know. So I asked myself, when you make a decision, it must be informed by something. And that information is probably more important than the decision that you make. So if you tell me, reject finance bill, I want to know from what perspective. And so for me, the Gen Z, yes, they were out there. They were saying whatever they want. They have been sending us information on the Ranini. But
they're out there again today.
But there must be somebody who triggers them. And sometimes, you see, there is a saying that if you give a knife to a child, if you give a sharp knife to a child, he may not know what to do with it. He might just come and think that you are part of the meat and cut you.
So you think someone is triggering them and not that they have grievances?
This is something that has been triggered, and they have seen the most vulnerable group is the Gen Z, and therefore this is the group that we can use to push our agenda.
So who's using
which
them?
Is unfortunate. I watched them here yesterday on JKL. I watched them speak yesterday, and I heard them, and I said, it came out very, very clearly who is triggering them in that talk show by JKL.
Who? I was here myself. I didn't hear.
It was very clear. There are certain people behind it that have seen a vulnerable group that they can use to voice their disaffection, and it's okay. Just like what the president said, it is okay to protest, and the Constitution does not tell you which age group should protest. Anyone in this country can do that.
Who's triggering them, Owen? That's the part that I don't understand.
I don't want to go into the details of that, but you saw it in JKL, and I would like you to watch JKL and watch it and listen to...
I did, but I didn't see that part.
Listen, you saw it probably.
They said that listen. They don't have a leader. They don't have a leader. They're crowdsourcing. In fact, they were saying that the politicians should stay out of it. So I'm wondering, when you say there's someone pushing them...
Just go into it. Just go into it. Listen to that show. That talk show, you'll be able to get. But I don't want to go into that. Trevor, I want to say this, and I want to. We have a debt in this country, 1.009 trillion interest on the debt that must be paid, okay, which is a first charge. Then is the CFS, the Consolidated Fund. Then we have around 840 something public debt, which we must pay as a country. That if we have a budget of around 3.9 trillion budget, and around 2 trillion of it goes into servicing debt, then you remain with around 1.9 trillion as what is available to the country to do all other things. Then we are saying that this budget, we have a deficit of around 500 something there, 597, almost 600 billion, okay, deficit. We are saying that this finance bill, 2024-2025, was to raise around 306 billion, which would have reduced the deficit of this country gradually, because the aim of this government is to reduce the deficit, reduce borrowing, become more self-reliant as a country, and therefore flourish the economy. Instead, all the time when, at the beginning of the month, when all the monies come from KRA and all other sources, what we do is we pay almost 3/4 of the amount that we receive outside to service debt. So we
Yeah.
remain with a quarter to want to work. So what is the option that you have? Option what you have when you have a situation like that is three, probably four. One, you look at a situation where you want to cut budget. Okay, you cut budget and say, okay, so we'll cut
one,
budget so that we can live within our means.
Okay,
that is one. The second one that you do is let's borrow.
Okay.
Okay. Let's borrow, bring in money from other sources, we'll pay later and inherit the Gen Z with the debt so that they will come and pay.
Yes, and
that's another. The third one is to tax.
Okay.
It's okay, I want to tax. And therefore, I get the resources to plug in the deficit. The fourth one is probably go out there and look for grants from friends so they bring in the money and help you. Now, if you look at all these four, the option that Juguna Ndung is saying is that, okay, if we do not want to tax as an option of raising revenue, then let's cut budget.
Yes.
What is the consequence of that? The consequence of cutting budget means that if we cut the budget, it means, therefore, certain sectors will suffer. The growth of this country will be stagnated, and therefore we continue to move on the trajectory of a plateau. Okay. How do you bequeath the next generation with a greater country? How do you bequeath the Gen Z with a better country, with better education, with opportunities for job? The Gen Z, I'm talking about the Gen Z.
Yes.
How do you bequeath them with a prosperous country if the only thing we do is sit back and say, let's cut on the budget? Because even when the Gen Z are out there, I want to talk about the Gen Z.
Yes,
even when the Gen Z are there, today they're Gen Z. Tomorrow they will be looking for a job. But we have an economy that has stagnated, that is not creating jobs, an economy that is not growing. They will want to come and look for a job. They will not get that job. Those Gen Zs are university. Some of them doing education like I did. They will want a job at TSC. They'll be told there's no job. Why? Because there is no money for hiring. So when we want to, let me finish. When we want to take options that do not help this country to grow, I want to say that we are doing that. And then again, one of the theme of the finance bill, one of the themes, if you read the finance bill today, you look at what are the themes that are running within there, is about creating local productivity of items, that we grow local manufacturing, that we grow manufacturing, which creates jobs, which does all that.
This new wave of protest,
Trevor, please save us from this pedestrian reasoning by Owen Bayer. You know, TSC is not an employer. You cannot come here and tell us that TSC will continue to be a main employer for the Gen Z. Gen Z are right. These are graduates who have been jobless for years.
I saw him in
You see, I would like
these are graduates who have been...
But I want to tell you, Trevor, you're going to stay on this show to call people names. I am also very good at calling...
Let me explain myself.
But Trevor, I would like to protest. Atandi, please use language that is...
let's all have.
But if you start telling me pedestrian, I have my language has worse words.
Agreed.
You know. So I will use them.
Trevor,
that's agreed.
Trevor, you cannot come here representing government and try to persuade Kenyans that we need to collect tax to give TSC to employ Gen Z. What kind of reasoning is that? That's what I'm calling pedestrian. But let me say that this Generation Z, these are graduates who are jobless, and they are not seeing any opportunity for jobs in the near future. And they are seeing that we have a government that is confused, that is not planning anything for them. So that is why they are out on the street, and there's no one who is behind them. This is something that needs to go out. These are people who are rightful Kenyans who are saying that, are we going to live in this country without jobs, without opportunities, when people in office are just making stories? So I think these people, I am very happy as a politician that we are not behind them. And I'm urging politicians. I saw some politicians trying to go to them to get credit. I think those politicians need to keep off. These people must be allowed.
You can see where it's coming from.
These people must be allowed.
You can see where it's coming from. They're disclosing themselves.
What I'm saying
He's saying that politicians should stay out, which is the same thing.
Yeah, they were trying to go and get credit for and take credit. They were in police stations trying to get them out. They don't need to do that. These people are fighting. They know what they're doing. And this issue of debt, Trevor, it is not lost on Kenyans that the engineers behind this debt, one of the many engineers was William Ruto. So he cannot come out.
So to Baba.
He cannot come out.
The government, Baba was inside.
Bombard Kenyans with this.
Let him finish.
He cannot come out and bombard Kenyans with this discussion about debt, as if he doesn't know how this debt came about. He was in government, Uhuru government for 10 years. The Uhuru government is responsible for these debts. So he needs to solve this problem he created without involving us and telling Kenyans that I need to pay debt. In fact, he's still piling this debt. If you look at the budget as it is, the executive is still retaining about 2.3 trillion out of the budget. Counties is taking 400 billion, Parliament 43 billion, Judiciary 27 billion. Debt consolidated fund services 1.2 trillion, and the national executive is taking 2.3 trillion. This is the money they are retaining. We are saying that you cannot even dare to take even one bob from counties, because as it is, most regions of this country are not seeing any development from national government. They are relying on counties. So we are only hoping that the money that goes to counties will reach each and every person in the grassroots. Because this is a tribal government that is spending monies on the people who voted for them. Those who did not vote for this government, what are they going to get? The only option they have is monies that are going to the counties.
Are you aware? In Omabe, your region, the investments and the roads the national government has done through.
You're in the budget committee. Right?
Yes, I'm
in the budget committee.
You need to be guided by facts.
Let him finish.
My colleague is still new in the corridors of parliament.
Yeah.
Sure, but
I wish he was taking time to learn. When we used to come,
you also in the budget committee.
But
he's not.
I sit in
Trevor, when we used to come to this debate last year,
across the country.
Trevor, when we used to come to this debate last year, we were first-time MPs. We used to listen to our seniors, and we used to make very good reasoning. Tell this guy that he needs to listen to us so that he can.
But don't mislead.
He can be a good debater in future. But the message I'm trying to say, Trevor, is that there's a lot of money in government.
Okay.
And this money should be used properly. It should be used properly. It should be shared equitably.
Yeah.
And lastly, we need to tame these unnecessary expenditures. The unnecessary expenditures are not development expenditures.
Yeah.
They are money that we are spending on traveling, money we are spending on useless offices like these ones of first ladies, second lady. Who are those people that are supposed to be given resources by the Kenyan public? So if the government is serious, they can do a budget that is balanced, a budget that pleases everybody. And then on the last issue that we were speaking about, political integration of the country. Trevor, we don't need to start with political integration. Let's start with economic integration. If we start with economic integration, political integration will come automatically.
Yeah.
But this issue of trying to copy, talking about Owen was telling us about the Tanzania, Ujamaa, and all these things. First of all, Trevor, Tanzania is a dictatorship. You cannot even sit in a TV station in Tanzania like this and criticize government. Those are not examples we want to tell us. If you go to Tanzania, there's no MP who can criticize the president. Here in Kenya, we are a democracy. We are free. We can talk about anything we want.
Okay.
So, Owen, don't bring us these examples of Tanzania. Those are small, tiny countries that are still copying Kenya.
There's a lot of feedback. Let's bring up the feedback because these are the people you represent. Let's hear what they're saying as we take closing remarks on this conversation. And there's a protest today as well. I'd like to hear your views on that coming up in just a bit. But Kiprono Abraham says, I tend to believe that all these hyped conversations about finance bill are not genuine. Someone somewhere doesn't want to see a performing government. In my view, we should be demonstrating about misappropriation information misuse and corruption in government. Yes. All right, let's move that to the back there so that we can see it clearly. Bob Otieno Wino says cutting of budget is a good move which is going to help government from overspending, but where I don't agree is the cutting of school feeding program and confirmation of JSS teachers. It's going to affect education. Okay, let's see what else you're saying here. Data analyst, you say we aren't against paying taxes, but we want value for our money. We demand transparency and accountability in tax use, not just more taxes without improved service. Create a favorable environment to collect more. Don't just tax without delivering, okay?
Just true.
Right. Odongo Rolex says, just explain to us or show us what has been done by the tax collected in the last financial bill 2023-2024, and we will believe you guys in government, okay? Kiprona Abraham says, our members of the National Assembly are not telling us the truth. Why remain comfortable with appropriation, including increments, but later appear to be fighting when executive is looking for sources of appropriated funds? They should have limit appropriation, okay? Brian Chemo says, Kenya is not ceasing to exist. Ruto has promised to raise tax to GDP ratio to 22% by 2027. What beats the people of Tongaren is why regimes want to do everything in their time. Let the economy grow, then tax what's available. We can't climb a tree from the top, okay? Frank Orinde says the government seems not to have learned from their past mistakes. Increasing taxes doesn't translate to more revenue. They are stifling the economy. Taxation should be simple, easy to understand, and predictable. Businesses are closing because our taxation is unpredictable. Okay? Mogire Jasper says we've had party mergers before. They never work because they are between politicians, not individuals or tribes. KANU, NDP, URP to TNA, but no distractions today. We must reject Finance Bill 2024. Increasing the tax base doesn't mean milking one cow 4 times a day. Okay. Babu Michael says the just proposed budget cuts are malicious and are intended to scare the MPs and the general public. NGCDF and JSS teachers must and shouldn't be the biggest casualties. There are very many unnecessary luxurious allocations, most so in the executive. Ole Shonko says cutting key development areas is not the way forward. The Treasury proposal undermines essential progress and threatens our future growth. We need to prioritize investment in infrastructure, education, and innovation to ensure sustainable development. Okay? Remy Butia says Kenyans voted Kenya Kwanza to rebuild the economy and deliver better public service. If government can just focus on health, education, agriculture for food security, reduce the cost of doing business and support MSMEs, the country will just be fine. KK says that what is this that is so special about the executive budget that cannot be amended or downsized to accommodate a leaner budget? It always comes down to debts directly affecting Ruto down here. Okelo says, since Treasury CS isn't a politician, we must inform him that he doesn't have to threaten us with partial collapse of the economy as a result of amendments of the finance bill. We must inform him that a lot of our resources are lost through corruption. His boss can end this. Okay? Elachi, closing remarks on this. There are still protests today by the Gen Zs. The politicians don't seem to agree on who's sponsoring, who's not, whether they're sponsored or not at all. What is your final word on this?
My final word is, first of all, I want us, all of us as leaders in this country, to accept when we went for the Eurobond in 2014, we were all one.
Which was eaten.
We were rolling our shirts in white.
It was eaten.
With a red tie. Let us not come and say it is a problem of others who did this. No, it is our problem, all of us, who believed in the rolling sleeves and the red tie. And we agreed we will carry the burden.
What do you mean?
And the moment you come in as any president of this country, starting from Kibaki's time, who we have learned a lot of lessons and we need to continue learning, who gave us a Vision 2030 that is 6 years
Eurobond
to about end.
Uuko said it was eaten.
Okay.
It is that when you take over with your liabilities, you take over the country. We move the country in unity as one. So if indeed CS is saying that we are going to cut this, and as I said, and I want to repeat as I finalize, that as Kenyans, they are saying we want to see growth, yes. Give us something that can start making us grow so that we can build.
Yeah.
And lastly, if indeed we are saying we have our resources, they are minimal, we are supposed to use them, then indeed, let us accept.
Okay.
Whatever ESCC is doing, all the things they have done in the last 2 years, getting the monies, then you return the monies to the people who took, and then you come and give us a headline where somebody who took, and then you tell Kenyans, oh, it is well. We need resources.
Yeah.
We need your revenue. They are feeling the revenue is getting into the pockets. As I end, Kenyans who are now saying finance bill is bad and everything, start going to look. There was a road that was done. Is it okay? If it is not okay, go and look for the person who ate the money. They are inside, they are outside. If you want to help us, because it is time now we stop now doing it the way we are doing, go and see the development.
Okay.
If you have seen there's nothing, please look for the way you have used your phone to find me, find the person who supplied, find the person who did the road, get him to come and redo the road properly.
Okay. Give Letty closing remarks.
I think that is a very exciting statement, bringing a new dimension that we also need to look at how we spend the same money.
Yeah.
Mine is only to look at 2 things or 3. It's an issue to do with debt growth. If you evaluate, if you throw the trajectory of debt growth, it came in, and in the last regime, during the my brother regime, it grew. And I wanted to diffuse the comments from Adandi that it was Ruto who was there. There was a time regime had changed. But anyway, value for money is an issue that I picked it clearly from the comments of our followers from the tweet. And I think I agree with them that we need to come to that level.
Okay.
But then now, this is not a responsibility for one person. It's a responsibility for all of us.
All right.
We in Parliament should pull up our socks to do our work. I should be expecting now, Tandy, even after this, to be tabling reports from his own committee, especially on oversight, and telling Kenyans, look at when we try to track the budgets that we approved and the revenues that we approved. From point A, it went to point C. It went this way. Senate the same way. As we are giving counties 400 billion, Senate should be giving us reports. How are they being used? And we try to minimize on the issues of corruption.
All right.
And lastly, the issues of GNC. I think I'm yet to know exactly what is the meaning of Generation Z.
People who were born between 1997 and 2012.
I really want to appreciate, as a young leader, that this is the Kenya we want, where all Kenyans participate when making decisions. The unfortunate part is lack of information and the appetite of not desiring to have sufficient information before you do something. It was even yesterday experience in Parliament where one member of Parliament stood and said this finance bill is going to increase taxes on cancer treatment. I mean, the same words which are being said in the street, it even confirms, even those inside the Parliament. I've never read the bill, neither I've ever read the report which has been tabled. Lastly, to the GNC, we listened to you, especially from the committee point of view, and we understood the stress you are going through. Issues to do with employment. The concession that is focusing on growing local manufacturing is retention of employment. Unlike the situation where we are, where Kenyans, we rely entirely on imports, meaning that we are shifting our little resources to importing goods and building the foreign economy and reducing our country into a dumping, into a market point, into a desired market for the manufacturers from the other countries. So the concession we've done in this report that we need to support now, we want to see the manufacturing of diapers, sanitary towels, edible oil, all these basic things that we need from our country. And the issue of tax expenditure that I really want to underline. You see, as we are looking at all this, let's not forget the cost that Kenyans is suffering through tax waivers, through exemptions, even including zero rated. Are you aware that the zero rating of bread is going to cost the Kenyans more than 2 billion in terms of VAT refunds to the manufacturers?
Owen, 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Trevor. I want to say this, that if we cannot raise enough revenue through taxes as a nation, we have 2 options. We either borrow or cut budgets. Both options have consequences. One of the consequences that we are seeing is what Professor Njuguna Ndung'u is saying. We can't raise enough revenue, and we do not want to borrow to support budget, then we have to cut budget. Has dire consequences that affect Kenyans, especially the young generation.
Okay.
That is one. The second thing that I would like to say is that we need to develop manufacturing in this country. And the manufacturing means we have to make certain pronouncements within the finance bill that grows the manufacturing industry in this country.
Yeah.
And therefore, sometimes finance bill is seen as only taxing Kenyans, but finance bill brings in amendments to laws that help to spur economic growth in terms of growing the economy.
Okay.
So when people say reject finance bill,
Yeah.
Finance bill has taxes, but it also has amendments to certain laws that are fundamental in growing a country.
All right.
So, but I also want to say this lastly, Trevor, if you allow me, that the protests that are there today, I would like the young people and whoever wants to protest is very constitutional. My people in Kilifi have told me that they're going to have a procession and going to protest, and I tell them, let them have a peaceful protest. We want to hear the voices, let them amplify their voices instead of violence.
Okay.
Let them speak out loud so that we can hear that it is not muffled in violence or anything. So we have peaceful and very civil protests.
All right, gentlemen, lady, thank you so much for making you're the one who started the closing remarks. Yeah. Okay, 1 minute then.
Trevor, what I wanted to say as I conclude is that Kenya does not have a revenue problem.
Okay.
The problem we have is expenditure problem.
All right.
So if the solution is cutting down these expenditures, I am fully in support of that strategy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for making time. That has been State of the Nation. Coming up next is Cooking Tips. All right, see you soon.